Hello, dear all, welcome and thank you for joining us for the Hydrogen Innovation Initiative Venture Building Program. We are very excited to have you with us as we embark on this journey to explore the potential of hydrogen as a key enabler for a sustainable and resilient future. I'm going to briefly mention the agenda for the Hydrogen Innovation Initiative webinar. In the beginning, we're going to have an introduction to Connected Places Catapult and context for the Venture Building Program. Then we're going to look into the maritime and logistics opportunity and the market potentials. Then we're going to speak about the overview of the Venture Building Program, and we're going to dive into an overview of how that looks like, understanding the structure, objectives, and methodologies. Then we're going to speak about the applications. We're going to learn about the process, the criteria, and requirements for participating in the Venture Building Program. We're going to speak about the delivery team and timeline, what is behind the Hydrogen Innovation Initiatives, and gain some insights. And in the end, we're going to have a Q&A, and we're going to close with some questions and answers to the session. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Connected Places Catapult is one of the 9 catapults working across the UK, where the catapults support a range of different sectors and some high growth industries. To name a few is Energy Systems Catapult, Medicines Discovery, DG Catapult, High Value Manufacturing, and all of them we are collaborating very closely. The Connected Places Catapult is formed of 2 complementary catapults, the Transport Systems Catapult and Future Systems Catapult, where they merged in 2019. Our focus is on helping position the UK at the forefront of urban and transport innovation. We accelerate smarter living, and we grow businesses with innovation in mobility services and the built environment. The aim is to enable new levels of physical, digital, and social connectivity, and driving faster growth and sustainable growth for the UK economy. Next slide, please. Connected Places Catapult is the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport, and places. What we do is we provide that impartial innovation as a service to public bodies, businesses, and infrastructure, and catalyze step change improvements in the way of people, how they live, how they work, how they travel. We connect those businesses and the public sector leaders to different cutting-edge research to spark innovation and grow new markets. And we grow technology demonstrators and SME accelerators to scale new solutions that drive sustainable growth, spread prosperity, and eliminate carbon. Next slide, please. We're going to speak a little bit about the Hydrogen Innovation Initiative. I'll give you a very quick intro. So hydrogen presents a massive opportunity to the UK to build some new supply chains targeting the 2.5 trillion of global hydrogen market by 2050. The Hydrogen Innovation Initiative has been created as a strategic national program to make hydrogen work for the UK and ensure that we manage to seize this opportunity. So HI, as we call it, has been set up to drive innovation and supply chain development across hydrogen production, distribution, and also use. Some information more about hydrogen, the Hydrogen Innovation Initiative. In 2024, we will publish an industry-led technology strategy, and we're going to provide a case for investment in a large-scale multi-year national program of industry-led innovation and supply chain development targeting a 2025 launch. This technology strategy will focus on technologies that are critical for delivering the hydrogen economy across multiple industrial sectors. We also work very closely with the industry, secure private and government investment to support nearer-term activity in supply chain development, end-to-end demonstrators, and different enablers, such as R&D infrastructure and building the skills, but also the very important Venture Building Program. I'm going to hand over now to Emilio to speak more about overcoming the fragmentation in decarbonization energy transition. Over to you, Emilio.
Thank you very much, Athanasios. So within the context of transitioning to a hydrogen economy and more broadly, within the context of decarbonization and energy transition, well, there is a significant challenge related to growing full complex ecosystems. And this challenge is mainly related to the fact of having fragmented technology stacks in the general ecosystem, having fairly limited funding models that apply to broad complex ecosystems, having a lack of collaboration between the public and the private sector, as well as numerous bureaucratic barriers to developing these ecosystems and making them grow and work. And so all of what we're showing today really comes from this challenge and is an attempt from the Connected Places Catapult through our venture building program to propose a solution to address these challenges and enable the full creation, growth, and globalization of complex ecosystems around hydrogen. Next slide, please. So why the Connected Places Catapult as a partner of choice to develop this? Well, I'd probably say that the Connected Places Catapult is at least one of the best entities in the UK to grow innovation in complex ecosystems. And why is that? Well, to start with, we actually already have about £3 billion generated in commercial runway, which really demonstrates the potential of what we do and of what we present today as our venture building program. The venture building program itself is actually the result of years of accumulated experience and research around bringing together and building complex ecosystems and helping them grow and helping innovation within those ecosystems grow. We're also highly connected, of course, with both the private and the public sector. And considering the challenges I was mentioning before, we consider ourselves a perfect link, a perfect intermediary to bridge the gap between those two worlds and help those complex ecosystems thrive. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, where do we start? Well, what better than a complex ecosystem that's really at the heart of the UK economy, and namely the River Thames. So we're the River Thames, is going through a great transformation, with about £2 billion needing to be deployed over the next 10 years. And for the first iteration, actually, of our program, it's really the assets, the considerable assets that we decide to focus on. And more in particular, we decided to focus on two main topics around the River Thames. The first one being last mile logistics for perishable goods using hydrogen technology, and we call it the downstream SPV, and we'll get back to that in a little bit, but the downstream part of our first iteration of the program. And the second one being the upstream one, and that focuses on the hydrogen infrastructure development around the River Thames. How do we unlock the potential of public assets more generally? Well, the aim is really to show how we can unlock these public assets and turn them into really globally scalable models. So it's really about identifying the good assets and then progressively applying our knowledge, applying the system that we built, applying the methodology that we applied and that will be presented in a second, and bringing these assets to a full global and scalable models. And by this, to do this, the first thing that we start doing is obviously identifying the needs around the assets and fusing these assets with a vision to make them grow and to make them become a scalable example of what can be done with these assets. And then it's all about putting together a scaling strategy. And finally, once we have all of this in place, it's all about the matching with the investment and understanding what the synergies are around funding, around investment, to consolidate these assets and make them grow. Generally, and I'll finish with this, the requirement for success that we're looking at and we're looking for around this program is, first of all, the sector. As I was saying before, we are focusing on complex sectors here. We're focusing on complex systems. And really the challenge that we're trying to address is to make these systems function and grow and become global systems. Second one is obviously looking at market drivers that can push these systems upwards. And it's really about using these and using the synergies around them to make these systems grow. The third one is that we need to address both the supply and the demand. And the illustration here of having both a downstream and an upstream part of the program really illustrates this. So it's really about understanding what is the supply, what is the demand, and incorporating them in the program that we develop and in the systems that we build. As you will see here, really what we're doing is proposing an innovative business model. It's all about this. It's all about finding the right business models that make these things, that make these systems that are facing challenges actually work and grow in the long run. And finally, of course, it's a little bit in our DNA at the Connected Places Catapult. It's all about leveraging emerging technologies and really inserting that degree of innovation in everything that we do. So I will hand it over now to David and Chris for the next part of the presentation that will be dedicated to introducing a little bit more the maritime and logistics opportunity and how it constitutes a market potential. Over to you.
Thanks, Emilio. You can go to the next slide. Thanks, Kat. So I think the big question, why the hydrogen 2? Next slide, please. Current low carbon fuels are almost a commodity to combat fossil fuels at the moment. And so we talk about conventional versus hydrogen energy. I've given an example on the slide there. Probably the predominant drive at the moment, and we see it in the motor vehicle industry as well, is using battery storage and battery energy to drive electric propulsion systems. And those are probably seen as a commodity in the market today. We know that future fuels will include hydrogen, and that to get there, we need to solve the problem of, if you look at the bottom there, the average cost that we've done calculations on for hydrogen versus the conventional fuels today or energy today, which we've termed as X. The challenge we've got is Y is greater than X. So how do we solve that? Next slide, please. So this is the whole purpose of this venture program, is to try and get to the viability target, commercial viability target that we're looking at. And this will require a lot of innovation on the hydrogen side, both on the upstream, the production and creation of fuels, as well as on the downstream, creating drive chains and drive capabilities utilizing the hydrogen. This will require government funding, and we need to provide incentives for companies like yourselves to get involved in programs like this to drive that innovation. And hopefully through driving this innovation, we can drive a bigger marketplace. So economies of scale come to mind. And I think it's very important that through this innovation, we create those economies of scale where we eventually get to the point where what is commodity today, hydrogen will be at that same point and maybe better for the future. So I think that's the big target of this venture program, is to get organizations to participate and take part in innovation programs that can both address the upstream and the downstream side through government funds, private funding, and those incentives that will then drive not only the ability to get those economies of scales, but hopefully drive a bigger market for the future as well. For the next part, I'll hand over to Chris. Chris, over to you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, so just to touch on how can this program and how does this opportunity actually provide that opportunity to close that gap that was mentioned there on the last slide about the cost difference, but also provide the commercial uptake in the future to build on that. with what I do for a living, I could quite easily spend an hour just telling you about how I see all these, but I won't. I'll focus on a few. It's just to provide an indication of, by this venture building program, how we can provide, first of all, a route to market. So achieving that initial government support that was mentioned in the last one and overcoming that cost difference initially. We have a clear project, a clear use case that can be supported. But it doesn't just end there. It also leads to a number of, the exact same model can be used for a number of future off-takers, whether that be industrial users, different vehicles, different requirements for power. The same model can be replicated. And that kind of leads into the market uptake. So whether that be for an overall system or whether it be the members' individual contribution, being able to actually demonstrate what they can deliver to market. And how that can be built on. And that in itself also leads into one of the most important points for closing that cost gap, which is the investment attractiveness, whether that is in a supplier directly or whether it be in financing projects. Having this more complete system, showing a clear pipeline, a wider pipeline with future markets, and also gaining access to capital and actually having that average cost of capital lowered, massive contributor to closing that gap. There's a number of other things, but as I say, I won't go through them all today, but there's clearly some opportunities there to both build on the commercial pipeline and overcome that cost difference and in time bring it down. Yeah. That's all I had to say.
Yes, I believe that is our time to shine. Thank you very much, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. So we've been talking about venture building and we've been talking about things called SPVs. I'm here to address exactly what those are and why they exist today and why this is a great opportunity for hydrogen and both the upstream and downstream propositions that we'll be presenting. Next slide, please. So a venture building program by nature will be creating brand new businesses. We refer to these as special purpose vehicles or SPVs. An SPV will be formed through the venture building program, which will include a whole number of stakeholders, including technology providers, both mainstream and startup based. We will have a blend of private capital, public capital, and potentially some other supporters that are required to make this special purpose vehicle a standalone business. The main reason for creating a new entity is to gain something called rapid impact deployment. It is a faster route to commercialization and therefore a faster route for return on investment goals, especially those regarding ESG. Next slide, please. The current route that we have available to people on the call and also to the wider HY network is that we operate in a very fragmented ecosystem. From an investment standpoint, and bear in mind that a venture building program and the assets it presents are there as an investment vehicle as well as a commercial runway vehicle. So the investment landscape to date to get technology to where it needs to be is incredibly fragmented. It is a high cost of capital, there's very little scale, and every single application is a one-to-one relationship. So within the venture building program, we will take a realigned approach and we will focus on matching technology capability, talent capability, and a whole host of other data-related or capital-related or client-related information, and we will realign it and form partnerships. These partnerships will then form an SPV if it's meeting the right requirements, and that SPV will be built for, as mentioned before, commercial runway and route to market. It is all about scale and speed to scale. And this is where venture building and the assets that it creates have been outperforming any other market known to date in terms of return on investment and deployment of impact. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Kat. Oh, thank you. And again, thank you. So taking part within this program, successful applicants will be able to harness collaboration. And this collaboration will be formed around a new entity as mentioned, this SPV. This will give you complete control over the governance, the investment return mechanism, blending both public and private finance, as well as building brand new skills and technology. But the way we get there is by creating market opportunity, hence the upstream and downstream propositions that we'll be opening for application and closing very soon. The strategic approach is very simple. We have to de-risk these assets to a point where commercialization is right on the doorstep and therefore attracts the right level of investment. I've mentioned before that venture studio models so far have outperformed every single other asset class and therefore is incredibly attractive for the private sector. And in this particular situation, will be the first ever publicly led venture building program to present these assets not only from a private perspective, but from a public interest. The other really important factor here is the scalability of these assets. Yes, they will be based in the UK in the beginning around the River Thames, but as you're probably all aware that rivers in congested cities exist in much larger scale across the world and suffer the same exact problems that we have identified as trends. Therefore, if scaling is achieved, it will benchmark the UK as a leader within this collaborative approach and therefore put UK PLC right at the front seat for meeting net zero and achieving our targets. Next slide, please. So this is going into the application process. And next slide, please. So our two projects which we are opening up as of this week, closing on the 26th of April, is our upstream and downstream propositions. We refer to these as SPV 1 and 2, but we also refer to them as projects at this point in time. On the left-hand side, you've got SPV 1, the upstream side, as discussed before. This is the production, conversion, distribution infrastructure around hydrogen. We'll be collecting all sorts of companies, technologies, experts, academia, supporters, charities, including a load of public and private organizations that have interest in forming this particular project. The application is open. Obviously, within the hydrogen production side here, please note that we are not expecting a groundbreaking new production of hydrogen. We understand this is arguably one of the hardest parts between production, conversion, and distribution, and therefore open the door to SMEs to change our mind, new technologies or mainstream technologies that exist to offer us that. The system can operate within grey hydrogen, but obviously we would encourage anybody with assets that can possibly create green hydrogen for this use to join and apply. Conversion and distribution will probably be the main focus of this SPV. On the downstream side, the last and middle mile system, especially for the perishable goods, if I can touch on that, large cities have to remove perishable goods from the center due to the increased demand and density of our cities and the nature of logistics. These are moving further out. As they move further out, it'll put more and more pressure on that middle and last mile. So far, we've got commonplace last mile technologies such as light EVs. We've got even drone capabilities here in the UK, but all of which will not be able to cope with that middle mile and also the consistency required to deliver perishable goods into our city. So downstream wise, we are again opening up this particular project to all sorts of technologies, including digital and hardware, to help us solve that larger systems problem. These are the two projects, and we can go on to the next slide to tell you exactly how this will scale. During this program, there will be 3 phases. These are also huge value points that we can measure outcomes from. Right at the very beginning, once you've applied, we'll be going through a very rigorous matchmaking process. We'll also be going through lots of due diligence interviews with all shortlisted participants to form the partnerships for both the upstream and downstream proposition. Once those partnerships have been established and all stakeholders have got a chance to meet and greet and understand their technology application and also their value add, we will move into the local phase. Local phase being centric around the Thames. We'll be looking at building the proof of concept business models for each upstream and downstream project around obviously the River Thames within the local constituent of the UK. Then, as the final part of our project, we'll be moving into the global phase, and I'm pleased to say that we've already earmarked locations such as Asia, Europe, and obviously a big one within the US, much rather larger rivers, much bigger traffic, and also larger congestion issues to overcome, and obviously much larger scale to provide that hydrogen infrastructure around river base or inland waterways. So definitely 3 different phases to enjoy for all successful participants. And we will form that as part of partnerships, local and global. Next slide, please. Over to yourself, Emilio.
Yes, next slide, please. So what we are looking for really is not only SMEs, but really the whole ecosystem. So SMEs and corporate partners. We're looking for private organizations. We're looking for public organizations. We're looking for academic partners potentially, and individuals. Anyone who think they can contribute to the formation of these two SPVs that Arnold was just describing. To do the application, there's a link which will appear in the chat as well, but that you can access already by looking at or by taking a picture of the QR code with your phones. The timelines for this, for the application, are the 26th of April will be the closing date, after which we will, as Arnold was saying, go through thorough due diligence of the applicants, and we will communicate the successful and unsuccessful applicants on the 14th of May. Next slide, please. Actually, maybe let's stay on this slide just for about 10 seconds on the QR code, if possible, just to make sure in case. Never mind. Okay, we'll get back to the QR code. Delivery team and thank you. Yeah, just giving it 10 seconds for the time to scan with the QR code. Okay, I suppose that should do. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Kat. Next slide, please. Arnold, do you want to take back the delivery team?
Yes, please. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that my camera was so close to my face before, so hopefully no one minds my hairline. Thank you, Emilio, and thank you everybody for listening so far. Just to give you a quick overview of who will be part of delivering this new venture builder led by the public. We obviously have Catapult, which Athanasios did a great job of explaining why the fundamentals were put in place to deliver a program like this. Just a quick one on the partners involved. I myself am the Chief Executive Officer of a company called WeSprint. We look at risk management and funding across large system-based challenges. We are partnered with our counterpart in Europe, Foundry International, and also one of our more focused SME development companies called Guessworks. We're delighted to have Sam Irishoho from that side as well, who will be part of the delivery team. Just in terms of scale, WeSprint sits across 2 family offices and multiple different funds. We look at about 200 million of assets under management. We actively invest from pre-seed all the way through to Series F. But as mentioned before, the main focus of what we do as industrial investors is look at large systems-based challenges and what solutions are best fit for purpose. We have a keen focus within energy, transportation, and aerospace. David actually sits on the board of a company called Dragonfly Aerospace, who have used similar mechanisms to export their technology across the world. Foundry themselves as well have been world-class in matching technologies across borders, and therefore have a really keen understanding of what the mainstream and startup ecosystem could look like for these 2 projects that we'll be leading on. Foundry will also be looking after the global expansion part of the program, which will take all successful participants across some territories that we've already identified, but we also welcome all of the participants to put forward their future territories of which they've identified themselves as well. Really, really excited to start this journey. And obviously, as mentioned, we've got generations of experience within building these types of assets and also operate and own as well as invest. Thank you very much from my side. Next slide, please. In fact, let me just continue on this front. Just as an overview of the timelines. So currently, we are recruiting for all of our stakeholders for both projects. This will run us into the first week of May. This is when we will be forming these partnerships post shortlisting and final decisions made on successful applicants. The due diligence and all the interviews will be held with shortlisted participants, and then we'll be moving forward to that final selection process towards the end of this month. Just as a quick note, we welcome companies of every single stage to apply. These partnerships will involve companies TRL level 3 all the way through to 9. But we expect that the SPVs that we will be forming will be between phases 2 and 3. As I've mentioned before, this is a commercial vehicle. It's not an R&D or development vehicle, and therefore we will be hitting the ground running. Next slide, please. The local program delivery aspect will obviously take those partnerships through formation of the scoped work packages per SPV or per project. We will not be focusing on forming the limited entities at this stage. This will be building the business cases for both. We will leave that kind of a level of admin towards the end of the global stage, and once we get a chance to meet our panel of investors and judges as well. So this is the local phase. We aim to get this SPV business model up to the level of TRL 6, which means that cash is required to form the POC and move it into the market. Next slide, please. Finally, you'll be working very closely with ourselves and Foundry at this stage for the global program delivery. As mentioned, we have pre-identified locations where the challenge use cases exist, and therefore we can help if no territories have been predefined within that local program delivery phase. But for this level here, we will be aiming for this business plan to have a global aspect, and therefore potentially looking at blending not just public and private finance from the UK, but potentially inviting investors from new territories to also take a chance at claiming a stake on those business plans. That is the program. It's run across 6 weeks. It's quite intense. There's a reason we're called WeSprint. Hopefully all the companies that are taking part will be pretty well equipped to handle some of the tasks that we'll put forward. It is a one-to-many session, so we will not be taking up too much of your time, but we'll be setting particular goals and quite clearly define those KPIs and outcomes that we're expecting at each stage. Thank you so much for listening so far. I believe the next slide is the Q&A session.
Yes, so thank you very much, Arnold. Just on the Q&A, you all have at the bottom of or you should all have at the bottom of the screen a Q&A button. So please don't hesitate to submit your questions on the Q&A button. I will read them out loud, and we'll have one of us answer, whoever is most suitable, answer your question. Just to answer a first question that was asked in the webinar chat, we will be sharing these slides. So you will be able to have a read a bit more in depth at what was presented today.
Thank you, Emilio. And I believe also it will be shared as a recorded video as well for team members who I know people have messaged me as well saying that they will be sharing this within their teams as well. So you will get a recorded version.
It will indeed. I have a question. Can you outline, sorry, can you outline the application process? Shall I take that?
You're welcome to, Emilio. I'll tag on anything that I think could help.
Please do, absolutely. So the application process is quite simple. So going on the link that I also shared, sir, in the chat, the link that you could see with the QR code as well. Once you're on that link, which is a web page on Connected Capital's website, there is an Apply Now button. Click on that button. It will take you to a form that needs to be filled. The form asks all a series of questions about you as an entity, as an organization, and then about mostly how you can be a match within one of the two SPVs that was described. Once you've applied, once again, the deadline is on the 26th of April. Once you've applied and once the deadline has been reached and the applications have been closed, we will review all the applications. We will review them as individual applications, but also looking at how they constitute or feed into the synergy of the broader SPV. And we will choose the successful applicants, and it will be communicated on the 15th of May, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, exactly. 14th of May, sorry. I hope that was clear enough. Okay, I'm getting, Arnold, you want to add to that, or I can go to the next questions?
No, go for the next questions.
Okay, great. So next question is, the slides only referred to hydrogen fuel cells. We offer zero emission hydrogen technology for electrical or mechanical drive. Can you reassure us that this is not limited to hydrogen fuel cells only? Thank you.
Happy to take that one. So no, this is not limited purely to hydrogen fuel cells. The indication there was just based on the conventional and most closest reach of hydrogen within the comparison to conventional, which is hydrogen fuel cells. But this is open to everything between production, conversion, and distribution. So please feel free to apply. It's not limited at all.
Thank you, Arnold. Next question is, I may have missed this, but do we form a consortium before applying, or can a company, for example, an SME, just apply not knowing who else will be in the consortium?
Yes and yes. You are welcome to apply together with partners, or ask your partners to apply separately. We are actually really looking forward to meeting companies that haven't had the opportunity to meet other companies. So during the matching period and during that first partnership session, as I mentioned before, we'll be doing a meet and greet and getting people together.
Thank you, Arnold. Next question is, what is the link between SPV1 and SPV2, or are they not linked in any way?
It's a very good question. So we usually talk about upstream and downstream, but you've got to think about this as port side and riverside. So some of this infrastructure will be based on land, some of it might cross over. We have seen interesting technologies that even provide assets that float on the river that can withstand hydrogen production, conversion, and distribution by itself. So we don't really differentiate. We differentiate between the upstream and downstream purpose. One is the application of building hydrogen production, distribution, and conversion. The other application with last mile and middle mile is obviously the requirement of energy consumption based on the river. These things don't have to be completely separate. And we understand that within this particular use case, the reason we've chosen these two SPVs is that they do work in synergy, but they do have to operate as standalone businesses by themselves. I hope that helps answer that question. But we will be setting the boundaries per SPV with the consortia that we choose and select with. So that will help us understand where those boundaries stop and start.
Thank you, Arnold. Next question is, hi guys, thank you for the presentation. Can you let us know what software tools are being used to manage these complex project programs and for parties to communicate and deliver on KPIs?
Again, that's a very good question. We will be using Zoom, Google Meet, Teams to obviously do the collaboration. We are also open to hosting companies within London at the Connected Places Catapult to get together physically. That is for human interaction, obviously technology and knowledge transfer. If you are referring to each SPV in terms of consolidation and integration, this will have to be either part of one of the stakeholders, or this will be one of the companies. It could be a company that is applying to either SPV to offer that capability in terms of integration software between multiple different technology providers, all the way through to sales points. So this is not just for the heavy infrastructure or heavy technology-based companies. This could be more software-based businesses who would like to help on that integration front. So we'll be using what is available for personal interactions and knowledge transfer, but for the SPV specific, we are open for technology providers to take part for that integration aspect.
Can I just come in, Arnold? Hi everyone, it's Michael Edwards, Director of Innovation at the Catapult. Yeah, we also, the Catapult, got quite a complex Microsoft stack that we use to manage and track all of our projects and programs. This program is being funded by Innovate UK, and as part of our remit, and requirements for their funding, we have to establish a set of KPIs that we can effectively track and monitor both during the programme and post the programme, to both validate the use of public funds, show the impact we've driven locally and for the UK economy, the IP and skills we've developed, but also to then try and inform government around future funding in the hydrogen space. So we very much will be using our standard tools and techniques and monitoring and evaluation capabilities to demonstrate the impact the programme's driven.
Thank you very much, Michael. Last question. Thank you for the presentation. We are a team of students at Warwick University that recently launched our startup in the last mile delivery area, but we haven't incorporated our company yet. Can we apply for the program as well?
Well, Emilio, you could have answered that one for me. So yes, of course, the application is open for individuals, teams, listed businesses, publicly listed businesses, and consortia. So not limited to limited companies.
Thank you. And following a follow-up on the question about software tools from David, who says, thank you. Just what I was thinking, tech stacks would require simplification and automation for the user experience. Thank you very much. And that is it. No more questions for now.
Thank you, Emilio. I guess, do we put all our cameras on and just get a chance well, I'd like to thank everybody on the call, everybody from Connected Places Catapult for this opportunity. And also, thank you for celebrating this huge milestone for the first publicly led venture building program. We really hope to see you at the application level.